Alrighty, so today we're going to be going over an 820-2936 board that has no backlight. Now, let's take a look and try to figure out why this has no backlight. That is what the repair shop sent this in for. And when you look around here, well, what do you know? It looks like my technician's 2-year-old daughter tried to solder an LCD connector. Isn't this cute? Really, isn't this cute? Oh, why? Oh, why? Why? Okay, so first things first is we're just going to take that and remove it because that is disgusting. And also you're going to see here the other thing wrong with this is that this is an 820-2936 motherboard, which means that it should not have that connector on, it should have a different one. So if this had any chance, see you later, if this had any chance of having a backlight, even with this this fucked up looking connector, it certainly is not going to have anything on it. When you plug in the improper LCD cable, there's a pretty good chance that it won't stay in. But it's cute that they tried now, isn't it? Okay, so first things first, hot air, remove this bullshit. Come on. Good, get the fuck out of here. Okay. We run some nice... Oh, my iron's not hot yet, it hasn't beeped. There we go, it beeped. You know what's really cool is where my head is over here actually blocked a screw up I just made so you can't see it. That's pretty cool. I wasn't even planning for that. Yeah, I moved a capacitor out of place and my head was actually blocking it. Okay, so let's fix this nonsense. Alright, so first things first is to get rid of the old nasty solder. Unfortunately, I don't have the wick that I'm used to. I have this garbage junk while I wait for my good wick to get here. So let's see how miserable that's going to make the process over what it should be. I don't like when the process is made miserable by tools that don't do their job. I don't know where this stuff came from, really. It's just solder wick, soldering remover. It's this blue labeled junk. It's not like liquor where like they say it's blue label, so you're getting something good. This is just bullshit. Like it's crap. All right. I wish I had a remote over here to turn the camera off of facial recognition and just a regular autofocus. That would be pretty cool. But I think I'm asking too much. Alrighty, and we move on to there and get rid of all this junk. Of course, as usual, it is good to have a fume extractor. I don't want to breathe any of that in. Breathing that in is really frowned upon. So there have been some comments in my YouTube videos about how metal, the body actually does have a way of getting rid of metals and all these little gases and things that are inside of the flux and the solder that I'm working with. You know what? I'll just take your word for it. I'm not going to test that. I'm not going to find out. No, thank you. Nice try. This is some really bad wick. Like, I'm not going to be able to get that as clean as I want it to be. And look, I knocked that same capacitor off again. What do I have against that? I keep knocking it off for no reason. Yeah. Get over here. All of this nonsense is going to have to get cleaned because it's gross. Alcohol and my little clean room wiper are going to be for. Clean room wipers are really good for this because they don't leave behind as much junk. They don't leave behind any junk, which I love. You can see all the nasty spots in my microscope that seen some beating, getting moved back and forth. So when I don't have any picture there, yeah, you could see there's junk like over here and there. And what are you gonna do? Good enough for what we're doing here. So we're gonna take some flux, put the flux over the pads here. That's way too much because I wasn't paying attention for a second, but who really cares? Not me. Take the connector. This is one of the ones where it doesn't stick into the board through the holes, which sucks. Means more work for me. And there's nothing good about more work for me. Boo. Yep, you can't see a damn thing. Doesn't really matter because it's going to move around so much as I put this down anyway. It really doesn't matter. Like as soon as I touch my tweezers to that, it's going to move. Alright, so you press it down really hard. I got the flux over there and I connect it. Now the whole thing that's going on here is that I can't add solder to I can't add solder with one hand while I'm putting the iron there with the other because I need to hold the connector down. So what I'm doing here is I put flux there so that I don't have to be adding new solder. I can just use this nasty cruddy solder with all the flux melted away that I have on the edge of my iron without having to worry about it not flowing properly. Alright, so this I believe is a case of me not aligning it as well as I should have. Boo. Yeah, it always moves. It always moves. Okay, we can correct that, luckily. Okay. So we move it over a little bit. This is what kills me about this too. I mean, you can tell from this video just how badly I suck at this. So I mean, like when I see stuff where it's just getting totally destroyed and butchered and the pins aren't even there, that makes me sad because it's like, I'm not even good at this and I'm getting the job done, you know? It's like if I were real, it's one thing if I'm like this jackass about connector soldering and I'm, I'm the world's best at it and I have this great, amazing skill set, but I suck at this. I mean, really, I do. Like, I am not a connector solderer. This is not my thing. I hate it. I'm bad at it. And still, so that's why it kills me when I see the junk that gets done to these. Because like I'm just so bad at it. It's just hard for me to stomach seeing even worse. You can secure that more later, but for now that is totally fine. We change tips over to the little curvedy tip so I can do my cheating job. As I like to explain, as an adult, one of the great things about life is that nobody cares how you get the job done if you don't harm anybody and it works. So you don't so watch what I'm going to do here. Add even more flux, which again I don't care about because this board's going to get cleaned. I don't care. I don't really feel like changing the tip on this dispenser just so that it puts out the right amount of flux. This is completely going to be cleaned, ultrasonicked, and brushed away, so I don't care. I really don't. They're never going to see. I guess unless they watch my video, but let's face it, if you're watching this video, probably here because you don't know how to do it, and I don't really care what you think of, the amount of flux that I dispense anyway. Alright, so, see that? We're just going to go doop. And there we go. You see that? Like, I don't know if it was as in focus with there as it was in my eyepieces, but like that's really all you got to it. And like, you see that? There's no reason for that clusterfuck that you saw over there. It really isn't. It's like, to do this job, it's just slippity slide. And again, keep in mind, I'm not good at this. I mean, I'm not a fucking micro solderer. I don't identify. I identify as a electronics repair person. I am not a micro soldering person. I'm terrible at all this like small stuff that you can't see. So I find ways to make my life easy so that I can do the work that I would otherwise not be able to do. So I want to be able to micro solder to the ability to do my job. That's it. I don't, I'm not trying to do this like to be the best micro solderer. I see this as a part of my job that I'm stuck doing if I want to be able to repair things. So I try to come up with these little ways of making my life easy. I try to look up ways of making my life easy. And that little thing I show you right there, it helps make my life easy. And you see, like, my hands are garbage. I can't position a connector. I can't hold the damn thing in place for more than a second, but still. Even considering how bad my skill set is when it comes to just being able to hold something straight, I'm still able to solder that connector in a matter of seconds once it's placed on there using this method, which is pretty cool. Now there's a little capacitor that was not there that's supposed to be that we're going to put on. It's not critical by any means, but it was there before. It should be there when we're done. Okay. Now to remove this river mess of junk, since I used my last clean room wipe, I don't feel like getting up until I get a wireless microphone set up. I will use a Q-tip, because the Q-tip is on my table. And as I explain in a lot of these other videos, the most important tool is not the tool that you love. It's not the tool that it's not the tool that everybody else says it's right. It's a tool that's like right in front of you. If it works, if it does the job. This is another thing that drives me nuts when people say, what do I order from Mouser.com to start fixing boards? What do you mean, Mouser? Your first assignment is going to be to go out there and buy dead motherboards that are 15 or 30 bucks a piece, that have every piece on them that you need, so that you don't have to wait. People don't feel like waiting a week for you to get something to confirm a diagnosis. What, are you kidding me? What? You're not going to be going to Mouser.com every time you want to prove a theory. You're not. It's just not the way it is. All right. Push the connector down on this end. It's already pushed down on that end. Okay. Now we go through the pin test. I'm not just interested in plugging it in to see if it works. I want to make sure every single one of those pins is put in place where it's supposed to be. And it's not like I uniquely soldered each one. I just used a quality flux and I just dragged it along while putting a little bit of pressure. Barely any pressure, like almost none, but just enough to it would actually get off the iron. So what we're going to do is at 30x, go over each one, see that it actually worked. That's pin, this is obviously not needed, that's, oh, you need more light. For some reason the camera doesn't pick up as much light with it than as this does. That doesn't count. Pin 1, pin 2 and 3 are tied together, which is why I have a solder blob there. Pin 4, 5, 6. So what I'm doing is I'm pushing it hard enough that I want to try to break the joint. Thank you for blinking, you shitty Magewell dongle. Does that in Windows and Linux, by the way. But the company that makes this crappy capture hardware, the Magewell. Okay, see that? That is whatever that is a casualty of whoever tried to do this before. So let's hope that that shit is not connected. So that's pin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 14 is kind of fucked up, but at the very least it's still there. Pin 13. So we're going to see what pin 13 is before we tell these people that there's not much I can do. Like I'll do some work on, you know, boards that are naturally damaged like that, but I'm not running wires around the whole thing for stuff that somebody else fucked up on their own. That's when you are on your own. I don't waste time on do-it-yourself messes. Okay, so 13 is ground according to the schematic. Okay, so let's move on here. Okay, yeah, it's fucked. Who cares? That's still attached to that barely working trace. It's 14. That's 15. 16 is soldered. 17 is soldered. 18 is soldered. 19 is soldered. 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. We'll get that hair is going to come off after it gets toothbrushed and tossed in the ultrasonic cleaner. So I don't really care too much for this now. Okay. Now let's check everything else. Something that I'm interested in before I bother turning this on. I want to see if it's even worth trying to turn on, if it's actually going to work. Let's put my multimeter in diode mode. Oh, you can't see it at this camera angle. Okay. There's a multimeter here. I'll shorten myself. Get that on diode mode. So first things first, let's check this backlight fuse. It's not blown. Okay, now we check the actual backlight circuit. How much of this is going to work? Okay. Yeah, this is not giving me much hope. So let's see. So we go from here. Here we should get 0.521 or 0.544. We have 0.531. Well, now we have 0.529. That's good enough. Now it's time to plug this pile in and see if it stands a chance at actually working. Wired microphone is driving me nuts. starting to get spoiled. Like, the sound in these videos just 1 year ago was such complete crap. Now it's a lot better, but I'm just tired of having a wired microphone. But I also don't want to spend money on a wireless microphone. Okay. What I'm interested in here is a light. This was sent in with the Sol report being no light. I'm fairly certain that it's going to run slow every now and then because of how that high side current sensing it looks, but for the time being, let's just see what we can do with the light. Oh, this LCD cable is so charged as shit. Probably from trying to fit it into a 2012 connector. Okay, so we can do this. Do that. This is the one good thing that I like about the business-to-business end, though. You see, like that other stuff, that's not my problem. Like, okay, it's good. Let me show you what I'm talking about. What a mess this desk is. All right. Oh, I hate the wired microphone. All right. You see that chewed up shit at the end here? Nah, this is not how this is supposed to look. See that? And it's keeping it from going in properly. And of course, there is no light on the screen. So to do a couple of measurements here. Voltage mode. We're going to check the backlight enable pin of the LED driver. Should be 3 volts. 3 volts. We're going to check what's actually going to the backlight. 24 volts. What's this pin of the connector? 24 volts. Okay, we're going to check for the PWM signal. Should see a square wave back there on the oscilloscope in a second or so. That's everything's there for backlight, which means that that LCD or that LCD cable are fucked. I'm tripping over at least 5 wires right now. Let's put this in my pocket. Make life a little easier. Okay, so let's try an LCD and an LCD cable that aren't fucked to shit. And see what happens, shall we? Look at this flimsy ass microphone. This is what you get for $50, really. Every time I move, the fucking thing moves. And it hits me in the mouth. Alright. I can't complain. I bought cheap. And what I got there is what I paid for. So I paid for it cheap. Cheap ass microphone. I got a cheap ass microphone. Now I'm complaining about it. It's like, really makes no sense. You can't buy junk and then complain when it's junk. Alright. So now we're trying with a new LCD. And if this works, again, one of the benefits of the whole wholesale client relationship is my job is done. This was sent in for board repair. Unfortunately, it doesn't. Now we have 24 volts there. I have a feeling that this model needs 27 though. Call me nuts, but I think it does. But the thing is, like, virtually, again, the voltage is there. So what I'm going to take one wild guess on, one crazy guess, is that that nasty, nasty looking LED driver area means that the LED driver also needs replacing as well. Alright, so even though the number that I got on output of backlight is correct, as you can see, I had the number that I said I should get on the meter. That's not foolproof. That's just one out of many ways of troubleshooting a problem. Alright, so let's get some of this stuff off of my table. I have a terrible habit of letting my table turn into a complete mess very quickly. Something about New York and working in all these small spaces. Yeah. You don't get space for anything in New York City. Okay. Let's replace the LED driver, even though my measurement said it's good. Huh. It's impossible to move in here. See, my LCD cable plugs in very nicely because it wasn't destroyed. Instant. Light. Done. So what did we learn today? First things first, do not let a 2-year-old solder an LCD connector onto a motherboard. Secondly, if you have a 2-year-old solder the wrong LCD connector onto your motherboard, do not keep jamming the incorrect cable into it, hoping that it will eventually fit, because you will destroy the cable. And thirdly, It is very, very simple, even if you are bad at micro soldering, even if you cannot hold your hand steady to save your life, to do a very, very simple, easy job. Just use good flux. I use this Amtech 559 right here with one of these great syringes that one of my actually YouTube subscribers sent to me. So thank you very much to the person who sent this. And it makes life easy. It's like zing, and you're done. And apparently we also learned that one of my methods of troubleshooting circuits is actually not always good. So I like to use diode ball measurements to ground on every single pin to give me an idea if any pathway inside the actual circuit doesn't work. And that was within, the backlight circuit was within the specified parameters that I usually have, and it still didn't work the way it was supposed to, which means that I am not always right. And hey, again, it just goes to show that a lot of this is guesswork. A lot of this is stuff where we have to come up with our own funky ways of figuring out and troubleshooting this so that it can be done within a 10 to 30 minute time frame. If you try to do this without having some types of tricks that you came up with, not tricks like magic you read in a book that's like, here's how you fix a board. I mean, using your brain. I mean, if you haven't come up with any shortcuts using your brain to figure out what's going on in a circuit, and then you're going to be spending hours upon hours on this. And let me tell you something. Again, these boards, like they cost $300 to $500. Some of them are like $700 or $800 in the high end. It's not worth hours upon hours upon hours of a technician's time to troubleshoot it. You really have to get some tricks in place so that you can do your job in 10 to 20 minutes. Again, as I like to say, if it takes me more than 20 or 30 minutes to do a board, to me, it just becomes trash. It's not worth the time. So come up with some ways, and hopefully you come up with some ways that are even better than mine to figure this problem out. So again, over there, the old LED driver was outputting only up to 24 volts instead of 27. And my diode mode measurement on the output of backlight gave me a measurement that's in line with what I expect from a working chip. So my troubleshooting method there that I've talked about in other videos, and I've shown you in other videos when the feedback via is blown. So you got to come up with your own smart ways of doing it. And again, hopefully if you have half a brain, you come up with a lot smarter things than I've shown you here.